The day I saved my sister's life was the same day my mother introduced me as just a family friend. She didn't flinch, didn't even pause. She looked the nurse in the eye and smiled. Like I wasn't standing right there. I was the lead neurosurgeon on a 7-hour operation. The reason her daughter was still breathing, still blinking, still here, but all she said was, "Thank God someone capable was on call." That's when I realized some people will never see you even if you bleed for them. So if you've ever felt invisible, even to the people who should have known you best, this story is for you. And if you're still here at the end, just type "still here." My name is Dr. Emily Hale. I'm a neurosurgeon in Portland, Oregon. 12 years of training, 3,000 hours in the OR, and not one of them was ever mentioned in a Christmas letter. My family talks about Sophie, always Sophie, the golden girl with the camera-ready smile, the one who made people laugh, the one they took photos of. I was the quiet one, the serious one, the one who read medical books at 10, while Sophie danced in the living room. At 13, I heard my mother say Emily is smart but cold, like granite. I had to look up the word. It means hard, unmoving, alone. That's who I became. Not because I wanted to, but because it was safer than hoping they'd ever really see me. I grew up in Redwood, Oregon. Small town, neat lawns, Sunday church, perfect on the outside, painfully quiet on the inside. My mother, Margaret Hale, had a way of making you feel like a guest in your own home. My father, Robert, didn't speak much. Approval came in nods, never words. Then there was Sophie, 3 years younger, golden curls, sunshine voice. She told knock-knock jokes at the dinner table and got standing ovations for tying her shoes. Once I won the state science fair, I came home beaming, holding the trophy. Mom looked up from helping Sophie with glitter glue and said, "Don't leave your mess on the table. No hug, no photo, just that." It was the first time I understood that achievement without attention feels exactly like failure. High school was when I stopped expecting applause or even eye contact. I studied like survival depended on it, because in some ways it did. Straight A's, student council, early admission to Stanford pre-med. At my graduation, I stood in my white coat certificate in hand. My father was in the back, not quite smiling. My mother didn't come. Sophie had prom that night. I remember holding the photo they sent later. Sophie in a sequin dress. My name wasn't mentioned in the caption. At first, I told myself they were just busy, that they'd come next time. But next time never came. And one day it stopped hurting, because numb is quieter than pain. And silence was the one thing I knew they'd never take from me. I live alone in Portland now. 2-bedroom apartment. Microwave meals, tidy, predictable. Like me. Last week, I removed a tumor from a man's brainstem. He cried when he woke up. Called me a miracle. That same night, my mom texted, "Dinner this Sunday. Sophie's flying in. If you're not too busy, you're welcome to join. Not Emily, not our daughter. Just optional." I scrolled Facebook. Someone from high school posted a photo. Sophie Hale, still so gorgeous and sweet. Her sister's a doctor or something. Didn't catch the name. It shouldn't have hurt. But it did. Not because she forgot me, but because that's exactly who I've become. Someone people forget to mention. It was a Friday. I had 10 minutes left in my shift, already dreaming of silence and sleep. Then my pager buzzed. Stat transfer. Neurosurgeon needed. Female 33. GCS 7. Suspected brain bleed. Car crash. I said yes before I asked for details. Habit, instinct, duty. The name popped up on the screen. And my breath stopped. Sophie Hale. My sister. I stared at the file, fingers frozen. Vitals unstable, pupils sluggish. Severe trauma. 2 hours away. Near the city where her ex-boyfriend lived. I didn't ask questions. Didn't call anyone. The team didn't know our connection. And I planned to keep it that way. Emotion has no place in the OR, not when someone's brain is swelling and the clock is already ticking. I scrubbed in with my heart tucked deep beneath my white coat. When they wheeled her in, I barely recognized her. Sophie's face was pale, part of her head shaved. Her joy, the effortless kind, was gone. The CT showed a hematoma pressing against her brainstem. Delicate, deadly. The OR went quiet the moment the drill hit bone. 7 hours. Suction, clamp, monitor, cut. One wrong move and she might never wake up again. Or worse, wake up a stranger. And through it all, I remembered her laugh. Her messy ponytails. That time she broke Mom's vase and I took the blame. Mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're her sister. That's what you do." I was 8, and now I was doing it again. Only this time, the cost was everything. The surgery was a success. Bleeding stopped. Pressure reduced. Sophie made it. The residents clapped. One of them said, "That was extraordinary, Dr. Hale." I nodded. Couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I didn't go to the waiting room. Didn't call home. I walked to my car, hands trembling just enough to remind me this was real. I sat there, engine humming, hospital lights streaking across the windshield like applause I didn't earn. My hands still smelled like antiseptic. I had just saved my sister's life, and no one knew. That silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like a familiar room, the kind where you shout and nothing echoes back. I returned early the next morning, white coat crisp, badge clipped, clipboard in hand like armor. I told the staff I'd be monitoring the case. Strictly professional. Sophie was in the ICU, stable, barely, conscious. Just enough to ask for water before falling asleep again. I stood at the observation window, a wall of glass between us. Not quite family, not quite stranger, just the ghost in between. Then I heard them, Mom, Dad, Daniel, walking through the sliding doors like royalty in mourning. Mom rushed to Sophie's bedside. "You're okay, baby, you're okay," Dad asked the nurse. "Who performed the surgery? We'd like to thank them." The nurse looked toward the roster. I didn't blink, didn't move, didn't breathe. And for the second time, I disappeared in plain sight. The charge nurse kept quiet. Bless her. But a younger nurse, new, eager, unaware, spoke too soon. Oh, it was Dr. Hale. She was incredible. I think she said the patient was her sister's silence. Dense, immediate, the kind that hits harder than any sound. Mom's face changed. Not shock, something colder, like realizing you'd been touched by someone you'd worked hard to ignore. Dad's lips parted. No words came. Daniel looked up, found me through the glass. I didn't wave, didn't smile. I turned and walked away, each step deliberate, measured, my heart beating so loud it felt like footsteps inside my chest. They had finally seen me, not because I failed, but because I didn't. I sat alone in the courtyard, hospital coffee in hand, bitter. Like most things lately, I knew they'd come. And they did. Mom sat beside me. No hug, no hand on my shoulder, just silence. Then softly, "Why didn't you tell us?" Not angry, just small. I stared ahead, watching the fountain that wasn't running. Because if you knew... I paused. "You would have asked for someone else." She flinched. "That's not true." I turned to her for the first time in years. Isn't it Sophie always needed protecting? And me, I was just too cold, too clinical. She looked away. Daniel tried to speak. All he could manage was, "Thank you." And even that cracked halfway through. The email came through the hospital system, flagged as low priority. Subject line, Team Appreciation Lunch. Patient Sophie Hale. It wasn't addressed to me, just forwarded from a coordinator. Like a memo, like I was someone replaceable. Attached was a note: the Hale family would like to honor the medical staff who saved their daughter. No name, no thanks. No mention of who led the surgery. I clicked accept without thinking why. The lunch was held in the south atrium. White linens, lukewarm food, a banner. "Thank you for saving Sophie," printed in navy blue like it was a school fundraiser. I stood on the edge of the room, flat lemonade in hand, same blazer I wore when I defended my residency thesis. No one approached. No one asked. No one looked twice. Halfway through the lunch, Mom stood up, floral scarf, polished tone, voice steady. "Our family is deeply grateful." She scanned the crowd without seeing me. "Sophie is here today because of the brilliant team at this hospital." Polite applause followed. I didn't move, didn't clap. An older nurse beside me leaned in. "Strange," she whispered. "I thought they'd say your name." I smiled. I'm used to being invisible. Then a slow voice rose from the back. "I just want to say something. It was Uncle Richard, quiet, gray-haired, mostly forgotten. He cleared his throat. Dr. Emily Hale saved Sophie's life, and it seems like this family forgot that. Silence, sharp and echoing. Mom's smile tightened. Well, it was her job, wasn't it? I stood, not out of anger, out of necessity. Eyes turned. Forks paused midair. The room tilted into silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't tremble. It wasn't my job. It was family. And it's time I said that out loud. I looked at them, not seeking apology, just making space for truth. I've sat at birthday tables unnamed, watched from the edges, held your expectations, but never your pride. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was free. I'm not here to be acknowledged. I'm here to remind you a daughter who wasn't loved doesn't mean she wasn't lovable. I reached into my bag, unfolded a faded paper. My grandfather's last letter. Let your kindness be your compass, he wrote, so I walked out. Finally, facing forward. That evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, I answered out of habit. Emily, her voice was quiet, still shaky, still Sophie. I don't really know what to say, but thank you. Mom said you didn't want to see me. I didn't answer. Not right away. I stared at the wall, the same one I'd painted over 3 times as if new color could erase old silence. I opened her message again that night, and again the next morning, and once more during lunch break. I didn't know if I was angry or just tired of holding doors that only swung one way. But for the first time, the silence between us felt slightly less cruel, still broken, but maybe not beyond repair. The next day my phone rang, another unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. Emily, it was her. Mom. Her voice cracked at the edges, like glass held too tight. I didn't know where to start. I guess, thank you. I waited, let silence stretch, then said calmly, do you want to thank the doctor? Or your daughter? She didn't speak. I filled the space she left open. Do you remember what you said when I chose neurosurgery? You said I was just trying to prove something, that it wasn't about healing, it was about ego. Still silence, but not the angry kind, the kind that listens because it finally has to. When I entered her hospital room, the light was cold, fluorescent, sterile, the kind that makes even strong people look small. She turned her face away when she saw me. I didn't ask about vitals, didn't check monitors, I just sat down. About what I said the other day, I'm not sorry. Her voice came sharp, then softer. I wasn't expecting you to be. We sat in silence, no oxygen masks, no metaphors, just the ache of unsaid things. Then she whispered, you were always like your father. You watched people, held everything in. I never knew what to do with that. It was the first time she had mentioned him in over a decade. And somehow that hurt more than anything else she ever forgot to say. We stayed like that for a long time, 2 people who had shared a house but never truly met. Then quietly, I asked the question I never thought I'd say aloud. Did you ever love me? It didn't come out bitter, just tired. She didn't answer at first. Her fingers tugged at the corner of the blanket, eyes fixed on the window. Anywhere but me. Then finally, I didn't know how to show it. But I don't think I ever hated you. Maybe that's the best I could offer. It wasn't a confession, wasn't healing, wasn't enough. But strangely, it felt like something. Like when a wound stops bleeding, even if it still hurts every time you move. I stood, not to leave in anger, just to end the loop I'd been trapped in for years. I placed my hand gently on the edge of her bed. No touch, no tears. If that's all there is, I said softly, I accept it. Not because it heals everything, but because I won't let it keep wounding me. She didn't look at me, didn't say goodbye. But the resistance in the room, that sharp, quiet wall was gone. And maybe that was all I ever needed. Not love, not approval, just for the fighting to stop. I walked out into the late afternoon light. The hospital atrium glowed gold, the kind of gold that makes even hard truths feel a little softer. Sophie stood near the elevator, hair thinner, eyes softer, phone in hand like a shield. She looked up when she saw me. Didn't smile, didn't speak right away, but she didn't look away either. That was new. I stopped beside her. No white coat, no mask of professionalism, Just me. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. But I beat her to it. It's not fixed, I said. She blinked, waiting. But it's not a wound anymore. She nodded, didn't press. And somehow I felt something lift between us. Not forgiveness, not closeness, just room. Room to start again without pretending nothing happened. 6 months later, I wasn't head of trauma surgery anymore. No pager, no overnight shifts, no adrenaline-soaked scrubs. I took a part-time faculty role at a local community college. When word got out, the reactions came fast. Surprised, confused, disappointed. You're giving up, someone asked. No, I said. I'm just choosing a different battlefield. My classroom wasn't shiny. The desks wobbled, the projector flickered, but the students, they were hungry, raw, real. Former waitresses, single moms, first-gen learners with fire in their eyes and doubt in their voices. On my first day, I didn't lecture. I just asked, how many of you have ever been told by someone you love that you're not good enough? Half the room raised their hands, and I nodded. Because I had once raised mine too. It was tucked between papers on my desk, no envelope. Just folded once, like she wasn't sure if I'd open it. Her handwriting, still round, still careful. I unfolded it with steady hands, but my breath wavered. I told Mom and Dad everything she wrote. They didn't know what to say, but I did. I'm proud to be your sister. That was it. No apology, no explanations, just that. Tucked inside the note was a photo, Sophie still in her hospital gown, holding a hand. My hand. The moment frozen. Quiet. Tender. No headlines. No speeches. Just two sisters. Alive. Still here. I placed the letter back into the drawer. Not to hide it, but to protect something I was finally ready to keep. That night, I walked home without my usual posture, no shoulders pulled tight, no jaw clenched like armor. The streets were the same. The city still humming. But I wasn't. I passed the bookstore, the bike shop, the little cafe I always ignored, and for once I stopped. Inside a tiny shop, I picked up a pair of soft leather gloves. The clerk asked, "What are you using them for?" I smiled, not politely, honestly, to teach people how to hold a scalpel, not to cut to heal. At home, my apartment felt warmer. Same walls, same silence, but this time, the quiet didn't hurt. It held me. Like something earned, not endured. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a shadow trying to matter. I felt real, without needing proof. The degrees still hung on the wall, framed, centered, gold-embossed names and titles I had worked years to earn. But they didn't catch my eye anymore. Not like the letter. Sophie's handwriting, just 8 words. I'm proud to be your sister. I had it framed. Simple wood, no glass glare, placed it where I'd see it every time I walked through the door. Not as proof, but as peace. Not because I needed the world to know, but because part of me had waited so long for someone to mean it. And now that it came quiet, unforced, late, but honest, I chose to believe it. Not because she was perfect, but because I finally was done asking people to see me before I allowed myself to exist. There was no grand finale, no moment where everything clicked and the pain vanished. But there was stillness, and that was new. I used to think I needed a stage, an apology, a name called out in public to finally feel real. Turns out, I just needed to stop waiting for someone else to make me visible. The world didn't change, my mother didn't transform, my family didn't rewrite the past. But I did. For me. Because I am not what they forgot to mention. I am not the background. I am what survived. What stood still when the rest turned away. What healed without applause. And sometimes being enough starts with simply saying, I am. I used to believe I was a shadow. Always just behind. Just outside the frame. The one who carried the weight but never the name. But now I know better. Shadows only exist when there's light, and maybe I wasn't the one standing behind. Maybe I was the light, soft, steady, unseen perhaps, but still here, still shining. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever loved without being loved back, if you've given more than anyone noticed, then maybe you weren't the shadow either. Maybe you were the one holding everyone else together, quietly, bravely. And maybe that's what real strength looks like. If this story stirred something in you, a memory, a scar, a name you stopped saying out loud, you're not alone. Maybe you were the one who always showed up but never got picked, the one who held everyone but had no one to lean on. Maybe your strength was so quiet no one called it strength at all. But I see you, because I was you. And if you're still listening, still here, still carrying your own silent story, leave a comment. Say, still here. That's all. 2 words. But sometimes that's enough to remind someone they're not invisible. I read every single one, not as a doctor, not as a speaker, but as a human who finally believes her voice belongs in the room. And this isn't the end. Not for me. Maybe not for you either. Healing doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed when no one's watching, or choosing kindness when you still feel broken. It's not always loud. It's not always pretty, but it counts. Every quiet step, every small no, every silent I'm still trying. I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring it out too. But what I do know is you don't have to finish the story to begin a new chapter. You don't have to fix everything to move forward. You just have to decide that silence won't be the thing that defines you anymore. So if you're still walking even slowly, I'm walking too, right beside you. The classroom was quiet except for the sound of pens and the soft hum of overhead lights. I walked between the rows, not like a lecturer, but like someone who knew what it felt like to sit in those seats and question your worth. These students didn't come with confidence, they came with questions, and that's why I stayed. A girl in the back raised her hand. What if no one believes in you? The room went still. No one laughed. No one saved her with words. So I did. Then you believe in yourself first. Louder than their doubt, longer than their silence. She nodded just a little, and I realized this is what healing looks like when it echoes forward. I couldn't rewrite my story, but maybe I could help someone else start theirs. After class, one of the students lingered. She looked barely 20, eyes heavy with something older than her years. I didn't think people like me could belong in rooms like this, she said. I smiled, not because it was funny, but because I had once whispered the same thing to myself in a mirror. You already do, I told her. You're here. That's when it hit me. I used to think I needed permission to matter. A title, an invitation, a nameplate on someone else's door. But I don't anymore. I'm not standing in someone else's light. I'm not waiting to be welcomed in. I am the room. I am the door, and I've already opened it for someone else. It started with a small article in a regional medical journal, just a quiet headline tucked in the back. A strange sister silently saves her own. I didn't know about it until a colleague forwarded the link. Subject line, "Is this you?" I read it once. Then again. The facts were correct. The tone respectful. No exaggeration, no drama, just truth. The story made its way online, and like all quiet things, it grew. Comments poured in, praise, questions, stories from strangers who said, I know this pain too. And then came one message that stopped me. The sister they forgot became the one who saved everything. I didn't reply, but I read it again and again, not to be seen, but to remember truth finds light even when we don't ask it to. The phone rang late. Caller ID Mom. I answered, not because I wanted to, because I was done running. Her voice was sharp, tight. You couldn't just stay quiet. No greeting, no pause. I stayed calm. I didn't ask to be written about. They invited me to speak. I told the truth. Silence, then you made us look cruel. I didn't flinch. If the truth embarrasses you, maybe that's not my burden. She didn't argue. She didn't apologize. She just hung up. And for the first time in my life, I didn't chase the silence with a softer version of myself. I let the line go dead and felt lighter for the words I didn't swallow. Later that week, an email came from Dr. Cross, my old mentor. Subject line, found this in the archives. Attached was a scanned image. A high school essay, titled The Hero in My Life. I frowned. Didn't remember writing it. I was 17. Bitter. Closed off. But there it was in my own handwriting. My little sister has a light I never had. But if she ever needed it, I'd be the steady darkness beneath her feet so she could shine. I read it 3 times, each word a reminder that before the resentment, before the silence, before the surgeries, there was love, real, unearned, unseen, and even if no one else had remembered that version of me, I could, and that was enough. I went back to the house I grew up in, the one I used to tiptoe through like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. Mom opened the door, hesitated. I looked past her. "I'm here to see the patient," I said. "Not you." Sophie was in bed, propped up with pillows, a little pale but smiling. "I've been remembering things," she said quietly. "Times you were there, but I didn't see it." I sat beside her, took her hand. "I don't need you to remember," I said. "I just need you to live." The room was still. No background music, no dramatic turn, just two people no longer avoiding the truth. And that was more peace than I ever expected to find in that house. They held the memorial at Grand Redwood Hall, a place reserved for weddings, anniversaries, and now a farewell. For the only man who ever looked me in the eye and said, "You're not invisible, Em. You're just too far ahead." Photos lined the walls. Sophie had her own frame. Daniel stood beside Mom, beaming in a school award shot. And me one photo. I was in the middle, face half cut off by the edge of the frame. Someone nearby asked, "Who's that in the middle?" Mom answered without blinking. "Oh, some distant cousin." I didn't flinch. Not this time. Because I'd finally learned not to confuse being unmentioned with being unworthy. As the speeches rolled on, I stayed seated, quiet, just another body in a sea of polite applause. Then slowly, Uncle Howard stood. 82, hard of hearing, sharp as ever. He cleared his throat, trembled a little, and said, "I just want to say something." The room hushed. Even Mom stopped mid-nod. "I want to thank my niece, Dr. Emily Hale, for saving Sophie's life. Seems like the family forgot." The words hung in the air, not heavy, sharp. All eyes turned, some surprised, some uncomfortable. Mom forced a smile. "Well, it was her job, wasn't it?" I stood. Not in anger, in truth. It wasn't a job. It was family. This time, no one looked away. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. I just spoke. Clearly. Finally. I've sat at birthday tables unnamed, watched from the back, skipped in photos, skipped in memory. The room held its breath. I graduated top of my class. No one showed up. I saved Sophie's life. No one said my name. I looked at Mom, not with bitterness, with distance. I'm not here to ask for recognition. I'm here to remind you, a daughter who wasn't loved doesn't mean she wasn't lovable. I reached into my purse, unfolded a yellowing slip of paper. My grandfather's last letter. "Let your kindness be your compass even when they can't see it." I read it. Not for them. For me. And when I finished, I sat down. Lighter than I'd ever felt in that room. I walked out before the next speech began. No drama. No slammed doors. Just footsteps, quiet, measured mine. The sun was setting behind the tall pines. Warm light spilled across the pavement like a curtain dropping after the final act. My white coat was folded over my arm. Not armor anymore, just fabric. People turned as I passed. Some confused, some finally seeing. But I didn't turn back. Not once. Because for the first time, I didn't need anyone to stop me, to chase after me, to ask me to stay. I had stayed too long already in silence and longing in versions of myself they never bothered to know. And now I was simply walking away. Not from them, from who I used to be when I needed their love to exist. A few days later, my phone rang. "Sophie." I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was soft, no rehearsed strength, just her. "Mom's getting her heart checked. They might need to do a procedure." Pause. "I know it's a lot to ask, but if you're free, could you come?" Then quieter, not as a doctor, just as you. I stood in my office for a long time after the call ended. No whiteboard, no charts, just a quiet wall and 8 words still echoing in my mind. Not as a doctor, just as you. For the first time, someone wasn't calling me because of what I could fix. They were calling because I was the person they wanted to sit beside. The room was quiet, sterile light, monitors blinking steady. Mom lay in the bed, smaller than I remembered. Older, not just in years and edges softened by something unnamed. She turned her head. Saw me, didn't look away. I didn't ask about her vitals, didn't read the chart, I just sat. She spoke first. You were always like your father, quiet, too observant. Her voice didn't accuse this time, just admitted. I let the silence settle. Did you ever love me, I asked. Not for closure, just truth. She looked at the ceiling. I didn't know how. But I don't think I ever hated you. It wasn't enough, but I nodded. Then that's what I'll take with me. And I did. Not as her daughter, not as her doctor, as myself, finally whole. And if any part of this story echoed something in your own life, a silence, a question never answered, a name you still carry quietly, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment, tell me what stayed with you, even just a word. And if you'd like to walk with me through more stories like this one, the quiet kind, the real kind, hit subscribe. Not for me, but maybe for you. Because sometimes healing begins with simply knowing you're not alone.